So I will call to order the City Council Transportation, Energy and Utilities Committee at 12:02. And I would entertain a motion on our agenda.
I move the adoption of the agenda as posted.
Second.
And if there's no discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Moving us on to our next item, which is adoption of our minutes from our 1/27 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move the adoption of the minutes.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And that we have the adoption of our minutes from our last meeting, and next is our public forum. Is there anybody from the public who wants to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay, come on up, Dan.
Yeah,
You
I want to come up here and-
join us here at the table. State your name for the record and you can tell us.
Excellent, thank you. I'm Dan Smith. I'm the CEO of the Greater Burlington YMCA. And I appreciate your giving space for commentary. I also just want to thank you. I understand being a public serving kind of entity, the complexity of dealing with sometimes divergent priorities, right? And so as I share today, I don't want any of it to ever be taken as a kind of negative thought for what has happened, only to say, hey, here's a problem I'm experiencing, and perhaps there's other things that we can do to address it. So please note that as the tone of the share. So I've been the CEO here for a year, and in that time learned that the number one reason why members quit is because of the parking compression problem that we have. An auxiliary to that is we often have lost staff members for the same reason. And then because we do run an early childhood education program in the building, we have staff that need to be at work at a specific time, or we end up out of ratio and out of license. And there are occasions when they simply cannot find parking to make it into the building. So that's been some of the downstream effects of some of the parking compression that we've experienced. Again, being here only a short time, I haven't necessarily witnessed all the things that have occurred, but my understanding is that the length of time one could park in the library parking lot has changed in recent history. We lost collectively in the neighborhood 12 to 16 spots due to some of the construction at 266 College, which I know was the former YMCA. They said there's been an increase in pricing as well as a removal of some 8-hour parking. And then with that construction that's been going on, there's often been parking meters that have been bagged and taken off for related to that construction, but also related to water main breaks or things like that, right? So that obviously those have to happen, right? There's also kettlebell. And then obviously the vendors and construction workers have started using some of the spaces that we traditionally used, and so that's created additional compression. So those are the things that I think have changed in recent history. But even when we built the Y, we recognized parking wasn't necessarily plentiful for what that Y was intending to be. And when I say we, I think we collectively as a community in town, right? So some observations I've made as somebody who attempts to park and tries to use South Willard and William Street and Main Street east of South Willard, where this is sort of free parking, if you would. I've made observations that occasionally somebody parks in such a way that they take 2 spaces, but because they're residents, the car will not move for an entire week. So you lose those 2 spaces for an entire week, right? And so thoughts around that are that the spaces were painted in some way, so they're marked, and then you could, I suppose, take it if somebody's taking it, right? But another solution that we wanted to play around with you all is that when we were at 266, we were considered part of the downtown footprint and had whatever advantages that was to the city garage. We're now 1 block up and we've lost that. And I've got about 100 staff that work the 100 hours of operations that we could be funneling into the downtown business district if they could park there. And by moving from parking in the meters and whatnot around to parking there, that could help eliminate some of that compression. So I think those are just some of the thoughts that we wanted to share. Again, we recognize, competing priorities and whatnot, and aren't necessarily looking for favoritism or something like that, but just wanted to share that that's some of the things. So,
Yeah, clarify the number of spaces. Did you quantify that? Did I just miss that, or
so the number of spaces that we
that you sort of like have lost, that you're
Yeah.
like the deficit?
I didn't pull these notes together. The staff member that's been fighting parking for the last 5 years was supposed to be here today, and he got the flu, right? So we were gonna be here together, but he was gonna do the documents. So anyway, he noted 12 to 16 metered spaces have been lost. And that's on South Union / CM parking lot, if that means it.
City market.
Oh, so, yeah, okay, yeah.
Thank you. I happen to, in full disclosure, been a member of the Y for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you coming in for this.
Well, thank you. Again, I appreciate the space. And if there's no other questions, I'll dismiss.
I'll just make a comment that, in the New North End, obviously people that use the Y often drive, and parking is like one of the primary concerns. And I have two neighbors, one of which recently missed a class and complained to me about this, but another one who was parked where they were just a little bit over into a no parking here to corner and got ticketed or got towed, I guess. So yeah, I realized that as well. I think that staff and the Y could collaborate a little bit.
Yep.
If there is an accommodation, a solution.
Excellent.
Figured it out.
So we certainly would look forward to that. And my email is on the sign-in sheet. And of course, you can call the Y number.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, Philip Peterson. I don't know if you recognize me, but I teach swimming at the Y. You and I run into each other pretty much every morning.
Yeah, because of the screen, I can't, there's a glare on the screen, so I can't catch his face, but yeah, good.
Okay.
Good to see you, Bill.
Right. And you're talking to the right group of folks. I manage traffic regulations. I'm kind of trading that responsibility off to Maddie Sender, who's in the room. And so I think we can make some connections, and I don't think we'll be able to solve all the problems. But I think there's opportunities for us to sit down and Maddie and the rest of tech services team, and I'm sure you and I can discuss it at the Y as well. I do see you most mornings, bleary-eyed, yeah, with Gene also.
I may not be as cognizant at that time of day, but yeah, but certainly we can
For sure.
share some thoughts.
Sure.
So,
We'll get together and we'll see if we can find some solutions that work for the YMCA.
I am amazed that your parking lot is filled up at 5:40
yeah,
for 6 o'clock, after 6 o'clock classes.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
somebody.
Yeah. Yes, it is full all the time. So yeah. Okay, well, excellent. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
TDM.
Is there anybody else?
TDM.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak for the public forum? I see, it looks like I'm having some other issues as well, Libby. Go ahead, state your name for the record, Libby, and the floor is yours.
Thanks. My name is Libby Moss. I'm a senior at UVM and a policy fellow at Run on Climate. I'd like to talk about composting in Burlington today and access to composting. Food waste makes up about 20% of Vermont's trash, and keeping food scraps out of our trash reduces greenhouse gas emissions and saves the little space we have in landfills. While composting has been mandated in Vermont since 2020, it's not enforced and in many Burlington households. So I think the city should make it easier for landlords to provide composting and tenants to compost. Right now, the requirements are unclear and doesn't really put responsibility on tenants or landlords. I was looking into the For Landlords Managing Food Scraps and Rentals FAQ published by the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. And I wanted to connect it to my situation. Right now, my landlord says tenants are responsible for composting, but they don't ensure that tenants have access to recycling and food scrap management. which is required by the Vermont Rental Housing Health Code. The code requires tenants to make independent plans to manage their food scraps, which puts all the cost onto the tenants. It's extra time, money, and energy for tenants to compost. I personally am taking my compost to UVM and composting there, but that's not really an option for most Burlington people that live in Burlington, and it's not going to be an option for me when I graduate in May. Um, so yeah, it's difficult for people to compost, and even though it's mandated, there's nothing stopping tenants from putting their food scraps into their trash, and landlords aren't required to look through people's trash, which I don't think is, really a good way to go about it anyway. Um, but, I personally think that, if the city could provide composting services like they do recycling, that would be super great. Um, and I think, something that could be possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Libby.
Vincent.
Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just muttering.
No, it's an ongoing discussion in the city, and we were recently talking about consolidated collection again, which the city may end up studying again, and obviously that would also address composting. So
I think yes, my muttering says that regardless of where we go, and I have expressed a begrudging flexibility that as we go through the regulatory process and reviewing our ordinances, and we continue to look at this the contract that may or may not be let into that this is definitely something as we move to the study and hopefully implementation of a major consolidated system.
great. Okay, well, thank you, Libby. And do we have any other speakers who want to address the Tuke in public forum? I don't see anybody here in the room. I don't see anybody online. So I'll go ahead and close public forum and move us into our deliberative agenda. And the first item is the Winooski River Bridge options and easements. I'm not sure who's leading that.
That'll be me.
Okay.
So we're here to give just a quick project update and also share some really detailed information about where we are in this phase of work. So we are in the right-of-way procurement phase. We have worked with V-Trans as the real leader of this phase of the work. They're using their own right-of-way staff to be able to assess property values, provide compensation offers, and help to advance this part of the process. These are all images that are within the packet, so I'm not going to provide something separate, but I bring it up so that we can have familiarity with what we're going to talk about. So this is the proposed alignment of the bridge. It requires both temporary construction easements as well as permanent construction easements to be able to realize the construction and to reconstruct a wider bridge in the footprint that it's in. This looks at this from a couple of different angles. That one was from Winooski. This is from the Burlington side. The bridge project and the intersection project are being advanced as one project, although they do hold independent utility within the V-Trans system. So we will first talk about the property rights that are required for the bridge, and then we will then talk about the property rights that are required for the intersection. The bridge itself is the time constrained portion of the project based on some of the federal funding that they have. We need to meet a construction obligation by September 30th of 2026, or we potentially jeopardize $25 million of the funding. And essentially cannot cause unnecessary delay, a delay at no fault of our own. I do believe that the federal government would provide an extension, but if we don't show that we are doing everything to advance it, we could be found at fault. So what this means is that there are properties within the city of Winooski, properties in the city of Burlington, properties that we actually own ourselves, where the land needs to be transferred. And then we've divided it into the ones that are critical for the bridge to advance and critical for the intersection to advance. So essentially, it's just about every single property in the area. I'll come back to the pictures if we need to understand graphically what is where. So this is the bridge in the city of Burlington. Riverside comes off to the left, Chester Ave, Mill Street. So we are really looking at properties on Mill Street as our critical path for the properties in Burlington that we don't own for the bridge right away. Really fundamentally being the Chase Mill and a property owned by Michael Wells. Mill Street's right away is not typical, but if you went out there today and you looked at the road looks like it comes down to here. The city of Burlington does not own that as right away. It is a split between.
Could you orient me again? I'm
Yeah.
not sure where the bridge is.
This is the bridge
Okay.
up here.
North
is up. Yeah, north is up. This is the river out here. And then it's like they have a little,
I see.
sorry, window.
Okay.
Screw up Maddie's shading. The Chase Mill building is back here. You'd sneak around the building. So again, it is a little bit deceiving. If today you went out there, it looks like our road comes all the way down here, and that's just not how the property lines are based. So the blue is permanent highway takings that we are, and easements that we are looking to acquire. This over here is because this is part of where the new structure will come through. The curved alignment would come out in this direction. This portion down here would be related to a possible shared use path if the Chase Mill is agreeable. And then the balance of this is we really would like to own the bottom of Mill Street at the end of this because we have infrastructure that comes down the street in a very typical way. That is the property that we have that are that is not the city of Burlington's.
So the acquisition is all the blue.
Yep.
And I don't think that the parking, although it says parking LLC as the owner, goes all the way up to the road. Do we have a count of the number of parking spaces?
Within the Chase Mills lot?
Yes.
Yes, so. The highway easement itself will not actually impact the number of parking spaces. We are working with the Chase Mill to, upon completion to ensure that they have the same number of spaces now as they do when they finish. What could jeopardize that is if the underbridge path that we've talked about is essentially in their hands. It's really only going to serve that as a primary destination. It could impact 1 to 2 parking spaces to be able to bring it in under the bridge into the backside of the parking lot. And at this end of the parking lot, it just gets too narrow. This is really their choice since they are kind of the origin destination and then would have that cause and effect to having that there.
Right, okay.
But ultimately, we don't have to impact their parking in a long-term way.
And just the bottom part of the blue. I believe that road actually, that the right of way, whatever it is, goes all the way through to the back of the building.
Yep,
Right.
so I also have Google hidden over in the background because those plans are sometimes difficult to orientate yourself. So
Right there, yeah.
yep, it is tricky. You know, there is kind of a small access road
Yeah.
and there is a driveway that comes out onto Chase Street from the back. I would love to hold on discussing all of
I
the
just wanted to get.
1,000 things that we're talking with the Chase
Yes.
Mill about because we do need to get to the 2 parts of the city. But yes, there's a lot of conversations with the Chase Mill. The reason that we're introducing both our parcels and all of the parcels is because ultimately the condemnation process will likely need to start for this project, even if it doesn't necessarily finish. So to quickly touch on the schedule, it is in the memo. Because of the deadline that we are trying to meet, we do look to go to the April 13th City Council to ask you to open necessity on both projects. While we are in the necessity hearings and even what happens afterwards, if necessity is found, which is compensation, all of the property owner negotiations can still occur. Property owners that have their offers that are still actively negotiating with V-Trans, they can sign their terms, which are usually better than an offer that the city council will determine the compensation. All of that can still occur until the city council finds compensation variant. So there's a lot of time still to have all of these negotiations happen, but we do feel it's important to start necessity to indicate that we are on our timeline, we can meet our timeline, and if something happens after in this timeline, it's possible. So that's why I share both other properties and ours, which go back to the PDF. We will go into the city of Winooski, which is where the city of Burlington owns a portion of parcel related to the Winooski 1 hydro dam in the city of Winooski. It is essentially the shared use path that goes under the bridge on their side. The city of Burlington's rights in Winooski are complicated, to say the least, but in short, the first request is a permanent highway easement within the parcel that we own. It is not transferring the land, but it's essentially declaring it as highway right-of-way. We become highway right-of-way in the city of Winooski. This area is further complicated because the Winooski hydro.
I'm sorry, on that highway right of way. The right of way is going to be held by V-Trans, by the state of Vermont.
By the city of Winooski.
It's going to be held by them. We are owning it, but we would effectively with it the way it's like right away to.
An easement over the top of it. So scrolling through several different drawings, and I say that this is complicated. This red line is the Winooski 1 hydro FERC boundary. This is essentially the area that the regulating authority over the dam, Energy Regulation Commission, Regulatory Commission, has that licenses the use of the dam by DED. We've learned a lot about FERC, but what's really critical is that they identify this area in the very top vicinity of the dam's pool as kind of a critical area of don't touch anything, don't mess with things. We want to review it because it can have a direct effect as to how the water goes over the dam and hence the energy generation.
And that's really where the right of way.
Oh yes, so we are all in that. So most of the highway acquisition is within the FERC boundary. There is also a portion of the Woolen Mill parcel, which is BED has, understandings and agreements with, but that comes into play. Why I mention it, they have reasonable conditions inside of their license for what can occur and not occur at the licensee level, or going to the FERC, which uses the word commission as the C, but it's the FERC commission, to be able to turn over this use. All of which I think that we are meeting straight face tests. It is currently a park. They ask that it stays park-like. We are keeping it park-like. We are not intending to change the shoreline in any way. We're not adding a dock, a dam, a pier, a post, or whatever as it relates to this parcel. Really not changing anything, just essentially also asking that it remain open for highway use above it, in it, next to it, and in compliance with it. So BED, who's not here today, we're moving very fast. We are in direct communication with, is generally supportive of being able to grant this easement, but we do need to make sure that we are dotting all of our I's and T's as it relates to FERC and making sure that that language is in our easement that gets granted.
Is the concept of highway something, because this is really about walking or biking, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to think about, the any sort of limitations that would, impact that, to make it clear that that the usage for energy are not implicated, and that is really that's flooded. When Winooski is flooding, that it backs up there, all the logs from that up in the Winooski are flowing down.
Yeah, so the FERC boundary exists the way it does for two reasons. One, because of the portion of the dam pool that is in the floodplain that gets flooded. And two, the Winooski 1 hydro actually has their access road off of West Canal Street. And so there's a larger area in here as it relates to being able to move things in, do maintenance, other constraints. The hill slopes up pretty strongly from the river up the hill here. A lot of this is more of a maintenance described area for them as it relates to the utility to the dam. But we do have more of the component related to the ponding and allowable floodplain area. There is no plans to do anything different than what is there, except obstruct it while the bridge is under construction. It will be put back as a path at the same elevation. So forth. But to ensure that while we're not changing it today, in 80 years, when someone needs to do something significant with this structure, they also don't change it in a detrimental way. We're ensuring that we write in the rights that will run with the land of the dam, such that for conditions that are active at that time have to be satisfied. So we have been offered $1,000 by V-Trans for the payment for this highway easement in this one section of the land. BED as an enterprise utility did pay for the purchase of the dam out of their own funds and their own bond and ratepayers and so on and so forth, so the $1,000 would go back to that. We're not asking for action today. We will go to the Board of Finance since this is more of a financial transaction, but as you guys do transportation, it's still support kind of an easy opportunity to share with you where we're at.
Yes, and hear any concerns prior to us bringing this to Board of Finance and Council. The timeline's tight, so we want to make sure we're advancing your interests as we bring this forward.
Any questions about this parcel? We call this parcel 4.
I think we need the action in the way that this is all going to be dealt with going forward. It's really important that to the extent to which this raises in people's minds the specter of flooding during construction. There is just some thought that probably should go into that, since flooding season and construction season are like together.
Yes, yeah, we have brought that up with the consultants who have thankfully been on board since the very first summer of the very first surprising flood for years. All right, so moving on to our next parcel, we move into the city of Burlington. This is actually going to show you both our highway right-of-ways and also the one related to the bridge. So this is a harder orientation. This is the bridge over here. Riverside goes off the side, Mill Street, Colchester Ave. So the Winooski city of Burlington owns the western edge of Riverside. It is a really large parcel, but in the portion that's in and around the vicinity of Winooski One Hydro, it was purchased by BED as part of the entire sale. So this area over here is a little bit larger. It relates to both an underbridge path possibility. It relates to relocation of some of the utilities that are up top here.
Is this the parcel as it currently is owned, or is this the part that needs to be?
The blue is the part that we would acquire a highway easement over the top of.
Why is there that little salient up on?
This has to do with a Green Mountain Power transmission pole and or also portion that may become a connection with BED's power distribution grid. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but yes, that and it is also a stormwater outfall.
And currently, this is just a single parcel. So what you're doing is making some sort of.
We're not, this
subdivision
is not a
of it.
fee simple, it's just an easement over
Right,
the top.
I got that. But this is on
highway
a portion of a single parcel, so it's not two parcels already.
Correct, yeah,
Right.
the one single parcel on this one, I think goes down to about Salmon Hole, which is really close. See, there's the
Yep.
end of the property line, and we've not continued that end of the easement further.
That's the Winooski Valley.
Yes, Parks District.
Yeah.
Yep. So the reason for kind of the odd boundary, the sizing is related to the rights that different utilities have within a highway right of way for a franchised utility, how they can operate, how they can locate. So that's kind of one of the other things that is guiding the size of the right of way on the sides. State has offered us This one's the 7,005. $7,000 for this. They deep seem low. The challenge that they have here in evaluating this land is it's a city owned parcel and we're not paying taxes on our own parcel, correct? So
It's
that
quite a
is,
steep slope too.
it is steep slopes. There's not a lot of
Not a lot of.
useful land.
7,500.
7,005, thank you. So
We're
again,
getting
the
a
funding.
$1 for them,
And
stick around with the.
so if you'll recall, we were here recently to talk about the Intervale where we took a city parcel and gave it to the highway right of way for no fee. This is not a common thing. This relates actually back to because our finance and maintenance agreement says they can either pay us for the land next to a bridge, or we can do it through some sort of like horse trade of staff time. They're already paying us for our staff time, and the city of Winooski felt strongly about being paid, and so we're getting paid for our own land and a nominal amount. I'd like to entertain any questions related to our own parcel before just sharing with you the rest of the parcels for that roadway.
Was the, one of the points you want to share on the other side of Riverside?
Yes, this is, we're gonna go into the properties related to the intersection.
And the intention is just to do some work so that the shared use path is, the alignment is proper, and that includes the sufficiently width shared use path.
Yeah, there's utility relocations that are close along this edge. A lot of this area is an underbridge path needs to start a little further back, come out to be a little bit further out to be able to then swing underneath. So it is a little bit extra space related to if the underbridge path happens, we actually own it as right away and not
And that's gonna be
BED owning
something
a
generic.
shared use path. So. This is not within any of the FERC boundary locations. That boundary is very exclusive to the dam and some power conduits, which are already inside of the highway easements. So. For going down for the intersection location, it's not overlapped very well on this map because right-of-way plans and property right plans are a little different, but if you follow the cursor, the road will bend around and come in to meet Barrett at a center location.
So that is needed for intersection alignment?
This is only needed for intersections. So while we will ask to start both necessities, and they will technically be two separate hearings when we move to the city council, we could delay the one for the intersection if it is being more problematic. The one that is really time critical for necessity is the rich oriented parcels. There are a smaller number of them.
And that is ours right now, right? Blue is ours.
No, blue is what we're asking for as a permanent easement.
Okay, but so that's privately owned right
This
there.
right now is privately owned.
And the tan or the whatever color.
Yep, so the blue is gonna be a permanent easement. This one may even be a fee simple taking because it will have the road on it. The orangish color is just a construction easement. So it's the ability to construct under this project for the very specific purposes of what the easement is being obtained for. Over here, it's so that we can adjust the sidewalk, which means that the contractor can't put porta potties in this easement. They can't, move a loader in there and park it overnight. It's really just for the purposes of removing the sidewalk, adjusting grades.
And there is that property, which I think I'm seeing an odd shaped rectangle.
There's no rectangles on this plan.
No, there's no, that's, yeah, it is a rectangle. Just,
The temporary easement is partially we're reconstructing that person's driveway to make better use of their parcel. So even though we're taking some of their parcel permanently, they are getting a benefit of a updated.
yeah, and that right now is a rental or a home.
It is rented, but and the property owner, who is a very nice individual, had it on the market for a long time. I think it's still on the market, but not as prominently.
There's a building on that
No, there are no buildings that are being taken.
Okay.
This has a small 2-car driveway. We're proposing to enlarge it to a 4-car driveway and remove the double driveway that exists.
So you just show the, like. Sound like, yeah. Okay, so that house,
I mean, let's look at it from the street.
yeah. Okay.
So we're gonna remove their driveway over here because the sidewalk actually moves a little bit inward, which is still within the public right of way, and it would preclude the ability for them to park a small car here, plus we don't allow double driveways. We're going to expand and enhance this access point over here for them as part of the offer that they are considering. And then this nose of their parcel, which they do maintain generally as lawn, but do also struggle with the steep slope down to Riverside being just slope.
Yeah.
So we're putting in a retaining wall to be able to create more of a level area up here and enhanced parking.
So that driveway is what was kind of dotted, that rectangle that was within the construction easement.
Just here, it's on your day.
We found this phone.
That's okay.
Yeah, so here.
So that is the driveway.
Guys.
Yeah.
They have a track
And no sidewalk on the southeast side of Riverside. Right?
There's no sidewalk.
There isn't, I know that,
And there is not one proposed.
but it's going, but it'll be landscaped and what have you. Or no?
Yes. I mean, they're gonna restore back something through here. I don't know that we've run as far, but the landscaping plans haven't been developed. This is being designed build, so that happens on that next phase.
Yeah.
You want us to push for landscaped? Keep going for that.
I don't need an encampment there.
So then moving up, again, as Maddie had mentioned, you know, we go to basically the face of all these buildings, we go around porches and so on and so forth. We are looking to essentially reconstruct walkways and reconstruct driveways to ensure that grade ties in. The right of way on Colchester Ave is one of our wider ones, so we have the sidewalk here and then a good 6 to 8 feet still on the backside of the sidewalk before we actually reach the property line. We are again working to still reconstruct things in those areas.
Why is the sidewalk being relocated? I mean,
It's just being shifted a little bit further,
just for
like a 5 foot,
the road width or for the.
to allow a wider green belt. Helps with it. And there's the widening of Colchester Ave as well that happens. Fortunately, this plan doesn't show the whole plan, it just shows the properties as what its focus is, but we can make sure to include that as we bring this to the city council, because I'm sure they're gonna want project update as well. On the east side of the street, this looks just really messy. So I'm gonna actually start on Mill Street. Related to the intersection, a lot of this is related to undergrounding of the utilities from the bridge up through where Chase Street connects at Colchester Ave. So to be able to underground the utilities, we need a lot of different accesses. We have access into the unbuilt space next to where Domino's is. Access in and around the building where at 495 Colchester Ave, where like the boardroom is, access into their driveways. We are looking to install a sidewalk on Mill Street and still keep double-sided parking, but at least have a sidewalk pedestrian facility there. As we move up the street, the easements here are twofold. They are connected to the undergrounding of the utilities and needing to be able to bring those utilities, which underground up to the face of the building. And also to help address the grades that are on the front of these properties by building a retaining wall. So the army green color is essentially the rights that we have that are permanent rights related to the retaining wall. Gives us the ability to construct and maintain the retaining wall structure across these faces of these properties. There are openings for all of the stairs that go down to the sidewalk right now. Those will be recreated. All of these properties have back driveway access. which is the reason why this is green. This gives us rights over their back driveway access. It also allows us, because we are considering two options for the undergrounding of the utilities. One is a street front access for the underground electrical communications. The second is also possibly a back alley access. And we just don't have solid information from utilities yet as to which way they're. Water and sewer will still proceed out the front, so that is, again, we will always need the orange connection to properties. That is our property rights out here. Generally, everybody is having active conversations with V-Trans. We have one property that is this one here. That is just owned by a very elderly individual, and it's challenging. You have to send the communications to the actual property owner, but really it's this person's children who are making decisions, and those lines of communications are not panning out as well as we would hope. It's not that they're disagreeable, it's just
They're not here.
it's less direct, and so we're challenged by that. The only property in this entire scenario that we do expect is going to be likely going through the entire necessity and compensation is the one owned by the Chase Mill. They are unfortunately the entity in this that received their compensation offer the most recently. The city, along with all of the other property owners, received our compensation offers in early September of 2025, and I've had a few months to be able to work on these things. The Chase Mill received their offer in December, so it is still very new with them. And
Are they excited about the project or unexcited?
they are concerned about they're playing a very good property owner role. I do believe underlyingly they are excited about the project, but I have legitimate concerns about the lack of the signal that it will occur at Mill Street, and therefore also the loss of the possible left turn. V-Trans is working diligently with them on their own site circulation and parking options to try to mitigate what they perceive as a loss of connectivity with the project. Got a sidewalk, the enhancement to Winooski, all should be reasonable balancers in this kind of configuration change that occurs out front, but I don't think that we will hear that, any of that from them until after we've all signed papers.
When this came up, I mean, and I know you wanted to limit this discussion because it easily expands to.
I wanted to make sure we got through what we had to get through.
Did we? Have we?
Yeah, so this is informational only. And again, all of this is in your packet. We welcome to answer any questions between now and
So specific to your presentation, and then I have another question about access in the Mill Street dilemmas. Now, are these offers came from V-Trans or from the city of Burlington?
V-Trans.
And necessity would be something that we would have this parallel track with this notion of necessity and whatever.
Yep.
Legal instruments we need to have to effectuate that. We would have that in parallel with the V-Trans discussions.
Yes.
So that but they would in no way like because we are starting down the work we need to do to establish the necessity, that doesn't impact at all grants discussions.
No, it could be a motivator for some to complete their conversations.
But they're not connected in any way.
They're not until you hit the time where we're ready to ask you to vote on the compensation. So I'm sure you're not familiar with the necessity process that V-Trans asks. They ask that the way that this will go through is property owners that have not signed their agreement will receive a notice of a possible necessity hearing as early as March 13th. V-Trans has a 30-day notification process. So very soon after the Board of Finance hears about this, the BD Commission will hear about it that week. Residents are going to also be, property owners are going to be receiving notice. We have the necessity hearing that is basically staff asking the city council to determine if it is necessary to take land or effectuate an easement on this property to build the project. So we still have to prove to you that we need this property. This is the only way to replace this bridge. It's the only way to replace this intersection. We will do a site visit. We'll present evidence and information. The city council will deliberate as to whether or not it is necessary and then vote.
And the affected property owners have a chance in that context to give an objection point of view.
Yep.
It's not necessary. You can do X, Y, and Z.
Correct.
Correct.
Once the declaration of necessity happens, we then move into what's called a compensation hearing, where the city council will hear the offer that the property owner was provided with, the negotiation of the offers that they were provided with, and determine if they are being offered fair compensation for the taking or the easement that we are asking for.
Is it on the same night?
We will start the compensation likely the same night that we think we're gonna come to a decision on assessment.
This be a hearing or?
They are hearings.
And so this is, I hope, and if it's not been contemplated, then I would suggest that you have a special meeting of the city council so that it is not on the same night as our other business, because this could become much more complicated and the pressures to engage, things can go wrong in a quasi judicial hearing that you do not want to have. And the other thing is to get early not an opinion, but guidance from the city attorney about acting as a quasi judicial body in this context. Very, very important, because it is really easy for politicians to mess up. And I have been in court, including to the Vermont Supreme Court on this issue, and I don't want to go there as a witness. I was much more happy to go as a lawyer.
Yeah.
Anytime we have to convene our body as body, any part of the city council or the entire city council as a quasi judicial board in an area where we don't typically do it.
Yeah.
It's like, we definitely need the guardrails
Yeah.
and the rules
Laid
laid out for us
Yeah.
up front. So that,
That's right.
because otherwise you'll have 12 different interpretations of what we're supposed to be doing.
Including what would be called ex parte communications.
Oh, yeah.
And that includes with staff. You are going to be asking us to weigh evidence, and so having inside tracks to us. Now, you're just laying out this detail, but this is the time right now for you to get those ducks in a row so that it goes really smoothly, and when somebody goes to the Vermont Supreme Court,
We
you
did
can
do
deal
it.
with it really quick.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that trajectory, but
I'm sorry.
I do hope that we land a little sooner than that. But they are
Yes.
super full experience points and recognizing kind of the challenges that we're in. What will be financial challenge discussion month.
V-Trans does this all the time, so their guidance.
I don't know that I would go with all the time,
Okay, well,
but
you know,
some of them have done it
rather
a few times. But yeah, so we do hope to open necessity, and then if it's appropriate and we can find the schedules, we'll see about moving these into special nights. Certainly the conclusion of the necessity and potential opening of compensation. We do expect this is gonna take a few months to get through, which is why we wanna start now and make sure that we've given everybody enough time for considering what they need to consider. Ultimately, at the end of this, assuming that we can find, no fault of needing to delay, we really do need or hope to have a decision on compensation by June. Could be the beginning of June, could be as late as the end of June, but after the end of June, we start pushing into the period of time that V-Trans needs to do what they need to do with the federal government, their grant. If we needed to land there, I think we'll have justifiable reasons. I think that there's enough information that V-Trans has prepared about why we want to go to necessity and the compensation that they're offering people, that we might not have reached a conclusion that people should feel comfortable by reaching that decision by the end of June. Essentially, V-Trans only needs you guys to reach a conclusion of compensation, that you find there's a fair compensation that's being offered, or have concluded a new compensation that should be offered. If a property owner wants to then enter appeals, that actually doesn't affect V-Trans's process. So V-Trans has their offers, we have our compensation necessity process, we meet at the compensation conclusion, and then actually depart again. Property owner can go and appeal, project can keep moving. They find that as long as the town or the municipality that's declaring necessity and compensation is essentially on board that much, that whatever the compensation offer that gets negotiated by appeal can be resolved. So it doesn't mean that we're done, it just means that.
I think that it will be helpful to also have, and it I think can be maybe general at this stage, but some sort of preliminary understandings of our own path, you know, when the paths diverge, diverge, so that we have the, so that we're looking ahead and that we're just really clear about what's happening, and Shelburne Road was an example of something that dragged on for.
It took a little bit longer, but we have used that as a reference point. So we are targeting the beginning of April city council. We recognize that is after town meeting day elections. We will have new councilors on the board and we will all have new potential assignments. So we do hope to use the actual meeting to open necessity, and then we'll work with the council president that gets voted in to understand the schedule.
I'm gonna withhold my other questions around the mill, because I think that there's interesting things that might be done, but might be better. They're more of a real estate transaction.
We are
It
trying everything.
probably isn't good for the public.
Yeah, we shouldn't give away our negotiating strategies.
Yeah.
But happy to talk offline. So you will see us back.
Yeah.
Those of you at the Board of Finance, and then hopefully at the City Council in March. We do hope to get council support to act on giving our own easements for the project before we ask you to find necessity on ours.
And if that was the minimum that you got out of us, that would still be good,
Yeah.
it'd be.
That would be a
It'd
good
be
start.
it'd be a good start.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
We good? Merrick, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're good. And we're gonna go ahead and close this item. Thank you. And turn to our next item, which is the FY 27 UPWP public hearing and application.
Excellent. Can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent. Great. Thanks for letting me present. Philip Peterson, Senior Transportation Engineer.
Just 1 second.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Second, Philip, please. So I guess we'll hear a presentation on this, and then we'll open up a public hearing, even though it doesn't appear that there's anybody here to speak to us about it. Does that sound like a good process?
Yes, and since things were in the packet and we discussed last time, Philip will give a very short presentation and then happy to answer any questions and would seek your support to advance this UPWP application.
Okay, but the item says public hearing, so
Yes.
do we should also hold a public hearing opportunity at the end of the
Yes.
presentation. Okay, very good. Go ahead, Philip. Sorry for the interruption.
No, quite all right. Philip Peterson, Senior Transportation Engineer and Planner with Public Works, here to discuss the FY 27 UPWP projects. Just a quick overview of why we're here today. Each year, the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, the CCRPC, develops a Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP, which is the region's mechanism for advancing transportation, land use, and stormwater planning. And as the memo notes, the UPWP is a mechanism to implement the regional strategies outlined in the CCRPC's plan, and also helps the city implement local plans. Most of the funding comes from federal transportation sources, and the projects we bring forward today are conceptual planning efforts, not design or construction, and they position us for future funding and help us advance the city's long-term mobility goals. So there are some ongoing projects continuing into FY27. So first, there's the transportation plan, Plan BTV Mobility, which is part of the larger Plan BTV 2050 comprehensive planning effort, which develops the transportation and mobility elements. And so this includes evaluating access to and from city parks, and also there's some local match involved. We also have the Burlington Main Street scoping study, and I won't get into too much of those details. There are 3 UPWP projects that are going to wrap up by the end of this particular funding cycle: Plan BTV New North End, the Vermont 127 Shared Use Path Scoping and Feasibility Study, and then we also have the Battery Street Technical Assistance. Excuse me. Just quick drink of water. Hang on. So for new local project requests, we have one new project, and this shouldn't be the first time that the TUC is hearing about this. We've discussed this project with the TUC. It's the Vermont 127 Road Safety Audit, which is a corridor-wide safety audit covering the Burlington segment of Vermont 127 from the Colchester line to the Manhattan Drive interchange. The goal is to evaluate crash patterns, roadway geometry, access management, and driver behavior. As the application states, a full corridor-wide road safety audit has not been completed. So there is some potential local match involved with that project. The estimated cost is $96,000 with a $16,000 local match. However, that match may be waived if the CCRPC designates the project as regionally significant. Colchester has formally endorsed the project, noting that Route 127 serves both communities. So I think there's a really good chance that this will be a regionally significant project. We're also advancing a technical assistance request. So part of Plan BTV Walk Bike Safety Action Plan, there are recommendations to look at all of our major corridors for LPIs, or leading pedestrian intervals. And so there's no local match required. And then the usual projects, counts and inventory requests, pavement inventory, and that doesn't cost us anything either. So at this point, the CCRPC UPWP committee will review all the regional requests. I'm actually part of that committee. We have a second meeting tomorrow to go through all of Chittenden County's UPWP requests. And so at this stage, we would respectfully request that the TUC approve support staff's proposed projects under the FY27 UPWP program. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Philip. I guess first, maybe we'll open it up for questions from the committee, then I'll open the public hearing.
What does ATR requests mean?
It's automatic turning requests. So it counts vehicles, volumes. So it's ATR counts for different intersections, different volumes.
And how did you come up with the listing?
So
and the turn counts.
Yeah, for sure. So some of it had to do with Champlain Parkway. So there's some follow-up in terms of those projects. So there's it's automatic traffic recorder. So there's different intersections that we need to do counts from the Champlain Parkway. There's also the quiet zones certification. So we have intersections along the railroad where we have quiet zones where the railroad doesn't blow their horn. And so we have to do counts at those intersections every 5 years, every 3 to 5 years to recertify that we want those intersections to be a quiet zone.
Merrick, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I'm pleased to see that the 127 study is on here. And I'm supportive of this this list. I don't see anybody online, and there's no one here in the room to speak in a hearing. So I don't know if there's any utility in having one, but I would, I guess, and unless you have.
I mean, I think that if there's a requirement, it would seem like it
Just
probably is, that you should open
Okay.
it, close it.
Then I will go ahead and open our public hearing on the CCRPC UPWP plan as proposed. Is there anybody who would like to give us input on this plan? I'm not seeing anybody online. There's no one in the room. Going once, going twice. I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody who'd like to give us input on this plan? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, but I guess what I would like to offer is for folks who view this meeting, and I know there are some who will view it on demand afterwards. They want to give some comment on this plan. I would, I guess, suggest that they send email to, is it DPW planning at
Yes.
burlingtonvt.gov.
Yes. And the CCRPC has a monthly committee meeting as well. So there are several opportunities to give public comments. So yes, you can reach out to the CCRPC as well, or DPW planning at burlingtonvt.gov.
Okay,
Great.
very good. Then I'll go ahead and close this item, take us to the last item. Thank you, Philip.
Thank
Do you need us to act
Oh, yeah,
by
you need
asking
to
that
act.
or?
I'm sorry,
Yeah, I would,
my mistake.
so do we need a motion? I would like to record the committee's support for this application if that is
Yes.
helpful.
Yeah, so we would just motion to support staff's proposed projects.
So I would make that motion. I would move to support the application as presented to us.
Second.
Is there any other further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
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 That's unanimous.
Thank you.
With noting that Councilor McKnight is not with us, but.
Yeah.
For those in.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Our last item on the deliberative agenda is the wastewater flow meter contract status.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ashley Valenti, Water Resources Engineer. Yeah, so basically, 3 years ago, as a continuation of our hydraulic modeling contract, we have actually, previous to that, from 2018 and on, the city has been implementing flow metering contracts. From 2018 to 2022, we self-performed the flow metering. And then as consultants were updating our hydraulic model, which is what we utilize to help support future developments and additional contracts throughout the city to better our wastewater and stormwater collection systems. More flow metering was performed under that contract. And at the end of the contract, we asked the city council to adopt their contract under the city of Burlington's moniker. So we entered into a 3-year contract with consultant EDS Environmental Services to provide a 3-year term for flow monitoring, both in a permanent aspect as well as what we call roving meters. So our permanent flow meters we use at our combined sewer overflow locations, and we use those to help us not only pinpoint when an overflow may happen, but also understand the volume and how much of an overflow is happening, how long it happens, so frequency and duration. Additionally, we have what I call roving meters, and what part of that contract basically allows me to contact ADS and say, hey, we're seeing some weird stuff. People are reporting sewer backups and we don't really think that we should be having that. So we will deploy these flow meters in these areas to help us kind of gain a better understanding of what's happening within our collection system. And we've utilized that both for reactive maintenance, which is people call a sewer backup happens, we put a meter out there to see what's happening, or we also are putting them in areas to determine future projects that may need to happen. So for instance, the traffic division is planning to pave Colchester Ave soon. And as part of that, Water Resources wanted to study the capacity of that existing sewer system to see if it needed to be upsized for both existing conditions as well as future developments, maybe future expansion of UPWP. So we installed flow meters out there to confirm that we actually do have capacity there, and we don't feel that we need to perform any upsizing projects, and that ultimately saved us about $500,000 in a project that we don't actually need to do. So we utilize these to further calibrate our hydraulic model, as well as, kind of pinpoint sore spots in our collection system. So as part of that Board of Finance and City Council approval 3 years ago, it was requested that we present our findings to the board before we go back out for another contract term. My intent is to do a full competitive bid process and post for another contract term. I'm hoping for a 5-year term, and see who bids on it, and then kind of continue with our program, both for our existing collection system as well as future development plans in the new north end, and development of additional models out that way too.
Thank you, Ashley. Questions?
No, I mean, this is just a report, like, to bring us up to date.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a report to bring you up to date and to, I'm planning to do an RFPQ before the end of this contract, so that I have cohesive flow metering throughout the season.
I had a question around, so like with the RFP, RFPQ.
Yep.
Would you be looking to change some of the locations you're monitoring currently? Like for
So-
instance, there's all the development down here, and we know it's
Yes,
a stormwater outflow capacity issue in the south end.
yes, so we actually have one located in this system right now already. So actually as part of the updated term, I am intending to do some more monitoring specifically around manhole surcharging. It's something that we don't do right now, so it'd be a different piece of equipment that actually gets installed underneath the manhole cover to tell us how high sewer may be coming up through the system, through the cover. And it helps us calibrate our hydraulic model, which is what we utilize to say, yes, we can accept this flow from these developments. No, we can't accept these flows. So we are planning as this next term to come through to actually do a larger full scale model and calibration using this flow metering program for New North End, because there are proposed future developments coming through the system, at the shopping center. And we don't actually have a hydraulic model for that area of the city. So we don't have a whole lot of actual data out there. So part of this next year's flow metering contract and term and, future terms is to help us build that out. So we are slowly, as our hydraulic modeling contracts, I think I have about 5 contracts right now with consultants running through all of these proposed developments, both ones that are existing, that are happening, like the South End Seaport development, as well as ones that are future, like the new North End projects. to hone in on those and be able to provide a much more real-time data for these areas.
So,
Okay.
so you saw the benefit on Colchester Avenue.
Yes, I saw the benefit on Colchester Avenue. Additionally, we also have deployed flow meters out at the existing sections of the ravine sewer at Hood Plant. And we are utilizing the meters out there to actually determine much more real-time data. Now that that section of the ravine sewer has been abandoned, what is happening in the Hood Plant area that is still kind of semi-connected? There's no active flow in that system, but we believe it's being utilized as a high stormwater storage conduit. And so that we have equipment out there that's helping us kind of read this data so we can determine another proposed area of future development, what can and can't happen with the existing infrastructure there. So I've seen it really beneficial in a lot of different areas throughout the city. Even here at Pine Street, where we our hydraulic model was telling us that stormwater was actually coming back through the pipe and going into the sewer system, and we were like, that doesn't seem right. But we have a camera that showed it happening. So that's all part of this contract, being able to really see real-time data.
So I think it would be helpful for us to hear from you, whether it's now or off the top of your head.
Oh,
Or
I've been
not.
doing the flow metering
There you
program
go.
since I started in the city of Burlington
So-
8 years
so-
ago. So this is my baby.
So it's there.
Yeah, I was the one in the system during rain events before we hired AD.
So I'm curious about your sort of overarching, big picture reflections based on the data that you've got in terms of sort of the hydrology of the city as it relates to our desire to put 7,000 more units here, to do a major
Yeah,
project down here, to do infill. It really is just sort of, you know, you got this information now.
Yeah.
You have seen its value. We got 3 examples
right.
there that you
Yeah,
have.
and my memo has every single location I
Yeah,
have.
no, I see that, yeah, but I think that for us.
Yep.
Being able to go, okay,
Yeah,
what did we learn? And in particular, what are the investments that, you know, seem to be indicated, not that they, you know, so you
yeah,
don't get to carry on that. What are the potential things that we can do that we thought we might have been able to do, or vice versa?
yeah.
I just, you know, that's the real.
Yeah, no,
help for
absolutely.
us.
For me and specifically is, so part of this hydraulic model is, because of this 1272 order that basically the state put down on us and said, no more CSOs. You have to mitigate your CSOs up to this certain design storm. And so being able to utilize the flow metering to further calibrate this model that we then put in these design storms and say, okay, what is actually happening? We're able to compare this computational model with real-time data at this exact pinpoint location. And so that has been hugely beneficial, and it allows us to calibrate that.
So so then, when we had the presentation about the bonding, and we talked about the capacity of the system, the way that we are likely to be able to work with all of the different plants. What I'm hearing is that this is a way that we get to validate that.
Yes.
And so that, yes.
Yes, and so what we're doing simultaneously, not just at our existing locations, but also for future, is I'm able to look at my hydraulic model and it's telling me, okay, this area of the Old North End is saying it's at 100% capacity all the time. So now I'm able to use this flow metering program to say, okay, here's 2 pinpoint locations, go install meters out there. let's see how good this model actually is. So I'm able to utilize what these roving meters to go out and pinpoint the areas of the city that, you know, in my model, it's saying at a 2-year frequency storm, the whole area is flooding, and we're not seeing that in real time. You know, we're out there during rain events, we're seeing what's happening in the system, and so I'm able to put this equipment in to then really detail out, okay, that's actually not happening, let's recalibrate our model to show it what's actually happening. And so it's allowing us to further hone in these models so that when a development comes to us and says, or even, you know, a homeowner says, I want to split my parcel into, you know, townhouses or whatever, we're able to say, yes, we have the capacity in our system because we've been able to both utilize our computational program as well as this ADS or this flow metering program to confirm what is actually happening.
So just one last to just say,
Yeah.
so what adjustments to the models have?
So we are actively working with consultants right now to do just that. So they are further calibrating this model with all of this additional information that we've collected outside of their contract. So they had the contract from 2022 to 2023, and then we picked the flow meter contract up from 23 to now. And we've been able to further provide more of that information, and they're further calibrating that model. And they're using that updated calibrated model to help us determine how to, specifically in this corridor, how to get more capacity so that we can accept these developments and what projects can be implemented in order to not only do our get up to our 1272, but also allow for these larger scale future developments. So we're in active contracts. Like I said, I think I have 5 different contracts right now with around this modeling kind of stuff.
It might be helpful at when you have the information available to just share that with us so that
Yeah.
we are just clear about how, you know, life interacts with
Yeah.
our best laid thoughts and plans.
Yep. Yeah, so we've been working, I was like, Chapin, you can probably speak to some of this stuff. One of our consultants, you know, we looked specifically around the south end of Seaport development happening here with Ride Your Bikes folks. And how to manage and how to accept their wastewater. And one of them was, do we do a pump station? Do we not do a pump station? Our modeling actually indicated a pump station doesn't really help us in any way, shape, or form. And so we can accept their wastewater during normal operational conditions. And so that allowed us to Water Resources to provide them with their capacity allocation. Say, yeah, go ahead, you guys can design that. There's some stormwater stuff that you're gonna have to do as part of that, but for the time being, you know, and we're working on additional projects to increase our capacity here as well as make our system more efficient getting to the plant. Yeah.
I appreciate all the questions. I think fundamentally for policymakers, the simple piece is the state is increasing regulation on our wastewater and our combined sewer overflows. The state's telling us to build more housing, and we have an old infrastructure underneath that we don't fully understand. There are issues. There's an interconnect right out here we didn't know existed until 10 years ago.
Yep.
We, through Ashley's work, are trying to understand the system because frankly, we're going to be telling a lot of developers, yellow light, we don't know if you have capacity. That's not what they want to hear. Once the developer starts, they want to be on the ground in 2 years. So hopefully through this work, we can give them more green lights. It's a little touch and go. A lot of the city is funky.
We're doing our best.
This is not a simple 8-inch PVC pipe everywhere, and we can just do a simple flow modeling. And unfortunately, we're spending some significant money to understand our complex system. I fundamentally believe it's good money spent. We've heard about Colchester, but this is one of the downsides of an old collection system. And a combined system in some areas, not in others, interconnects. It's like trying to figure out how the patient is living when you can't, cut the patient open.
I just say I agree with you 100%. It's like
the yellow lights that we have to give the developers is friction that keeps the development from happening, and adds risks to the people financing the projects. The more certainty we have about public infrastructure, the easier it is for the developers.
Yeah.
But also, like in the case of Colchester Avenue, we don't know, we're gonna err on the side of caution, we're gonna overbuild what we need.
Right,
That
I'm
creates
gonna
problems.
delay the paving, we're gonna spend all of this probably state funded money to do this infrastructure work. When we don't need to, and I have other areas of the city that could really use that money.
Yeah.
And so it helps us really direct our collection system master planning projects and, you know. That, and which is a huge flip that I'm doing right now simultaneously, so
Right.
this helps me.
You don't have to build a pump station, that's helpful. So I mean, I think that for
Yeah,
us,
saves a lot of money for both us and the developer,
Exactly.
yes.
for us getting that information, and it's not always going to be savings. It's gonna be, oh, guess what, we determined that we have, and that is essential information for us, and when the developers are complaining. You know, if there's valid reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Then,
Yeah.
so that kind of sharing of the information, that particularity is what I was sort of getting at, and
The certainty is appreciated by
Right.
the development community.
yeah.
And this developer here, to make that development happen, is gonna have to build on-site storage for when that Pine Street line is full, and they can't pump to us.
Yeah.
So they're incurring significant costs because our infrastructure is maxed out. And so unfortunately, other South End folks, till we can figure out the model better and do some strategic upgrades, are gonna be looking at additional premiums, which makes building affordable housing all the more difficult. So TBD.
Yeah.
Well, excellent, thank you for
Thank you.
telling us about it.
I was like,
Merrick, do you have any?
It's all day long, so.
No, my questions were asked. Thank you.
Well, that would conclude our deliberative agenda
Yeah.
this month. Director's report.
I'm happy to defer. I have a 1:30 and answer any questions.
I guess, just to give a preview, there's interest in the council, Councilor Bergman and I talked about having GMT back next month to talk about, bus access to hospital facilities, the 11 and Tilly drives.
Okay.
So waiting to say you can come, and so they'll be on our calendar next month. Along with whatever other things we add to it between now and then. I don't have any other items at this time. Do you have anything, Merrick?
I don't think so, no.
Probably had something that I forgot, so you're elected.
Okay. Then I will, our next meeting is tentatively for the 23rd of March. Time TBD. Is that that's already,
No, the 23rd is a, well,
is that Tuesday?
no, 23rd is a Monday. It's when we have a council meeting.
When is it not 23rd?
Must be a typo. Should be the 24th, that's what it's had.
I mean, what would if I'm sort of, I mean, if we want to say our normal time.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, I should.
Thank you, actually. If we want to say our normal meeting time, that's bad for anybody. Which would be 5:30.
24th at 5:30 PM.
Yeah. You want to say that for now?
Yeah.
Is that good? Is that good with you, Merrick?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, let's do that.
And do we want to be so bold as to schedule April? On the 20,
Well, we may have a different committee structure.
oh, that's right.
So we should
Good point.
probably say,
But depending, but it
we'll
would be,
we'll need a formation meeting for
Yeah.
the committee, so. Yeah, maybe we schedule it.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
that would be April 28th, Tuesday.
yeah, and.
Is that the school break? They usually runs right up into.
I thought it was the preceding week of
Might be.
20th
I'm
to
not on kids in
24th.
So,
I don't know when's Easter? Oh, Easter is in that beginning of the month. So no Jewish boy doesn't know that.
let's just do that. Let's put one in the calendar for the 4th Tuesday in April at 5:30.
Yeah.
And we'll, bob and weave as necessary.
Great.
I'm looking at the calendar right now. The Burlington School District is off the 20th through 24th, so we'll be back in session on the 28th.
Okay.
So we're good. Great, that helps for long-term planning.
Sounds good. And then I'll go ahead and adjourn us at 1:27.
Cool.